Next, Senator Bates is here. Welcome to the committee, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm here, of course, to present on Senate Bill 1323, which adds fentanyl to a list of dangerous drugs, which include heroin and cocaine, and they are subject to sentencing enhancements based on weight. SB 1323 is sponsored by the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and I'm certainly proud and pleased to have Senator Huff as the joint author on this bill. Fentanyl is up to 50 times more potent than pharmaceutical-grade heroin. It's often mixed into heroin and other drugs without the knowledge of users. It is also cheaper to make, easier to transport than heroin. These factors combine to make fentanyl the emerging go-to drug for cartels. Because of the drug's potency, overdoses are more likely to be fatal. In addition to the potency of the drug, because it can shut down the lungs in as little as 2 minutes, victims are less likely to be rescued than those who overdose on other drugs. And it's important to note that fentanyl can be deadly simply if it becomes airborne or makes contact with the skin, posing significant dangers to the first responders. And Senator Huff has some statistics to share.
Across the country, we've seen a huge spike in overdoses and deaths attributed to fentanyl. At least 28,000 people died of opioid overdoses in 2014. Of those, fentanyl was involved in 5,554 fatalities. That's roughly 20%. A 79% increase from 2013. Unpublished data for 2015 indicates an even steeper spike in fentanyl deaths, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Authorities documented over 8,500 seizures of fentanyl between January and September of 2015, compared to just 5,200 in all of 2014. Similarly, Orange County saw a 100% increase from 2014 to 2015 in arrests for driving under the influence of fentanyl and a 400% increase in arrests for possession. Last week, the Sacramento region saw 42 fentanyl overdoses, which as of yesterday have led to 10 deaths. The victims range in age from 18 to 59 and came from diverse parts of the region. Yesterday, I talked with Natasha Butler. Her son, Jerome, 28, father of 3 children, ages 1, 4, and 10, and a graduate of Sacramento's William Daylor High School, took a fentanyl pill that he was told was Norco. On Wednesday, March 30th, doctors removed Jerome from life support, and he passed away. Heartbreaking stories such as Jerome's are becoming far too common.
SB 1323 then is cracking down on the drug cartels and the high-level drug dealers that are distributing, trafficking, and selling mass quantities of this poison. Excuse me. The bill would only go into effect when someone is caught with a kilogram or more. A kilogram of fentanyl has a street value of anywhere from $100,000 to several $1 million. And thinking of the size of what a kilogram is, we're not talking just a few pills in your hand. We're talking something the size of a brick. And when you get up to the 80 kilogram measure, that's with cocaine and the other drugs that give you 25 years, you're talking truckload. So that's what we're trying to target here. In no way impacts sentences for end users, those using medical fentanyl by prescription for its legitimate and prescribed purpose. It's not seeking those. The bill gives law enforcement a needed tool to prevent an epidemic of deaths and overdoses happening all around us. It's supported by the California State Sheriff's Association, the California Police Chiefs Association, a legion of law enforcement across the state, Crime Victims United, the Association of Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, and many other law enforcement groups. I'd like to introduce our witnesses. Orange County Sheriff's Department, Captain Stu Greenberg, he's in Investigation Division, and Assistant Director Jennifer Harmon, she's an expert in terms of the drug itself. She's with the Crime Lab.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. Thank you for taking the time to let us speak to you today about this very important issue. The last couple of bills, I think, have highlighted the need for steps in the direction to protect our community, protect our children, protect our loved ones. Fentanyl is, as explained, extremely dangerous. I'd like to cover one point quickly that I've heard over the theme of the last couple of bills, and that is, as we talk about sentence enhancements or creating law specific to these drugs, I do believe it's a deterrence. I do believe it works. It's exactly why you're seeing major cartels employ chemists and high-power attorneys so that they can circumvent those new laws. That's why they're changing the chemical compounds to try to get around the new laws. Fentanyl is one of those steps that they've taken. It's less expensive. It's far more potent. It gives the end user a very intense high. However, as we've seen, as we've heard, a single exposure can result in sickness or death. In my capacity as the Orange County Sheriff's Department Investigation Division, I oversee narcotics teams that target mid-level and major narcotic traffickers. As mentioned, this bill is aimed at major narcotic traffickers. We are not going after the end users. We're not going after somebody that's giving or selling a gram. We're going after cartel-type organizations that are in it for the money and don't care how many lives it costs. As mentioned, fentanyl is on the rise. It started on the East Coast, and it's making its way to California. We believe it's coming from China, and it's coming from Mexico. It comes through the Southern California area, which is a major narcotics corridor, and it landed initially on the East Coast for the last few years, and now we're seeing it here. And as mentioned, again, the cases right here in Sacramento over the last couple of weeks highlights that. The question of overcrowding has come up as well. What will this do to overcrowding? Again, we are targeting major narcotics dealers. We're not talking about going out and making a quick arrest and throwing people in jail every day or every week. Our investigations are intelligence-led, they're prolonged, they take months to develop, and yes, they will have an impact. The cartels will know about these laws, their high-powered attorneys will be aware of them, and they will have an impact. But again, we are not targeting low-level dealers. We are not targeting the end user. I think one of the issues we see with any sentence enhancements or creation of new law is it a deterrent? Is it enough? A sentence enhancement like this is just the beginning in my mind. We need to do a few things. We need to have a three-pronged approach. Number one, we need to continue to target major drug trafficking organizations. We need to go after the cartels and anybody else, I don't care if it's from China or Mexico or where it is, that's going to bring this into our country and kill our people. Number two, we need to treat and rehabilitate our end users. We need to educate them. They need to know what they're taking, they need to get the treatment they need, and we need to work with them. Again, this does not target them. And number three, we need to increase awareness and education amongst the public and amongst our leaders, our elected officials. That's you. So I applaud you for hearing this. As we increase awareness on what fentanyl is and the damage that it can do, I believe we can make an impact. I know that as we've started developing investigations in this area, I've been in contact with agencies across the country. We've seen fentanyl in form that mimics prescription drugs, mimics tar heroin, and it's killing people. It's also a danger to first responders. In New Jersey, we had two law enforcement officers during a service of a search warrant that were exposed to fentanyl. This was confirmed through tests, and they were hospitalized. Thankfully, they're alive. They survived. But it's only a matter of time before fentanyl will claim more community members, more innocent people, children that get accidentally exposed to it. It's coming. And if narcotic addiction hasn't touched your life, if we don't do something about it, it will. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate and applaud your efforts.
Good morning, Jennifer Harmon with the Orange County Crime Lab. We started to see illicitly manufactured fentanyl in 2015. It came into us as a large seizure, over 1.5 kilos, and it was found with a decedent. We were able to link 3 other deceased persons as we found additional solid dose drug on those individuals to that particular kilo case. Starting in mid-2015, we started to see additional forms of fentanyl and its analogs coming into our crime lab. We saw it as tar heroin, as the captain mentioned, as well as numerous pills, which are prescription pills, to the extent that chemists with over 20 years of experience could not identify real versus counterfeit. We're talking about hydrocodone, oxycodone, and Xanax tablets that are readily available to the public. We have had 4 deaths in 2015 just from a single fentanyl analog in overdose. And in 2016, we've already had 6 fentanyl overdoses within the last 3 months. For us as toxicologists and forensic scientists, it's very scary to see an illicitly manufactured drug that is considered really the most powerful and potent toxic opioid available for prescription use being illicitly manufactured. We've also identified over 4 other analogs that are being produced by these manufacturers, 2 in the last 3 weeks. So what these individuals are now doing is they are providing multiple synthetic fentanyl forms in a single pill for users. Many users don't even know that they're ingesting fentanyl or one of its analogs. They believe that they're taking a much less potent form. 1 kilogram of fentanyl contains 4,000 lethal doses. You only need 1/4 milligram to produce death in an individual with fentanyl. It is readily absorbed through the skin. It can readily be absorbed by anyone coming in contact with that compound, to the extent that we've had to take extensive safety measures, providing Narcan and other items to our analysts and to our first responders who have to respond to scenes where any sort of unknown powder may be found. Our concern is that the public do not understand the risk in which they may be taking as users, or even those who may come in contact believing that they're taking one thing and they're taking something else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dawn Kepke with McHugh Kepke Associates on behalf of Crime Victims United of California, also in support.
John Lovell on behalf of the California Narcotic Officers Association and the 7 other groups that I referenced earlier. I'll just incorporate them by reference. Senator Leno asked an important question early on in context of another bill, and I'd like the committee just to consider the moral implications of someone knowingly dealing 10 kilograms of fentanyl, knowing what it will do. If this were any other context, I believe that this committee would exact a moral price for that kind of conduct. This is an appropriate bill. It is timely. It is badly needed.
Who's in support of the bill?
Asha Harris on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in support.
Thank you. Are there speakers in opposition to the bill? Please come forward.
Good morning, Natasha Minsker on behalf of the ACLU of California. Unfortunately, we are respectfully opposed to this bill. Fentanyl use is a public health crisis, and it urgently calls out for a public health response. The conduct involved in selling fentanyl is already illegal and already subject to lengthy sentences under California law. The approach taken here will not address our public health crisis. We have 40 years of experience with the failed war on drugs to know that further lengthening of our criminal sentences will not reduce illicit drug sales or use. There was a lot of discussion about this earlier today, and so I won't rehash all of the problems with the war on drugs, but just to address a couple of points that were raised. Senator Leno did ask about if sentencing enhancements have a different impact on manufacturers and sellers as opposed to users. Unfortunately, the research shows no. A person who makes the intentional choice to manufacture or sell drugs doesn't say to himself, will I go to prison for 9 years or 14 years or 20 years? The question he asks is, will I get caught? And all too often the answer is no. That is what we mean when we say the research shows that the certainty of punishment dictates the deterrent effect, not the severity of punishment. Significant research shows that adding on to already existing sentences additional time does not improve public safety. You might ask, what's the harm? This is a public health crisis, so what's the harm of lengthening sentences and showing that we really are upset about this and just increasing the penalty further? The harm is that our current state budget for corrections is already over $10 billion. The harm is that we don't have enough space and we continue to spend more money to build jails and prisons. And that those resources then are not available for treatment and rehabilitation. One of the reasons we have a crisis, a public health crisis in California, is that we do not have sufficient treatment available for people who have addiction problems. And so when we make the decision to further lengthen our sentences, to further invest our tax dollars in prison spending and corrections, we are making the decision to divert money away from treatment and rehabilitation, which would in fact address this true public health crisis. The question was also raised, what would the public want? In voter initiatives and polls, the voters have said to us over and over again, they want investment in rehabilitation. They want drug abuse to be addressed as a public health crisis. They want our prisons to be reserved for the most violent and serious offenders. And that is the approach we urge you to take. The enhancements at issue here already apply to heroin. If it worked to add lengthy sentences and enhancements such as this, then why do we have an epidemic of heroin abuse in this country? Why is it that we see almost every day a new headline saying heroin use and sales is going through the roof? Unfortunately, while this approach is well-intentioned and we do truly have a public health crisis that must be addressed, this is not the approach that will fix the problem. And so we urge you to vote no, and instead to support rehabilitation and treatment to address the underlying addiction issues. Thank you.
Khalif Osagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association, also in respectful opposition. I'll just associate myself with the comments of my colleague.
Thank you. Are there others in opposition? Seeing and hearing none, are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Anderson.
If there's still room on the bill, I'd like to be added as a co-author. And Madam Chair, when it's appropriate, I'd like to move the bill.
I think it's appropriate. Senator Leno?
I'm not sure to whom I'm addressing the question, so if anyone has any information that may address it, I'd be appreciative and open to hearing it. I'm a little confused about this, what's going on in Sacramento right now, in that if I'm a manufacturer of a drug and I'm in business to make money, and I'm putting something out on the street that is killing people immediately, that's not a good reputation for what I'm putting on the street. So what I don't get about what is happening right now is, why would a manufacturer bother to expend any resources on fentanyl or anything else that's actually going to kill? Why not just put something in it that, I mean, is this just a criminal mind out to cause havoc in the streets? Is this like some sinister mind? Why would someone even be doing this?
I'd like to try to answer that.
Of it?
I think there's several reasons. Number one, it's about money. The criminal enterprise that's producing this product and selling it is in it to make money. The people they kill in the process, they consider collateral damage. We've seen a few different phenomenons. One is that fentanyl produces a very intense high. When you're a drug addict and you're not thinking in the right mind and you're seeking that high, you're willing to roll the dice to chase a more dangerous drug because you get that intense high.
I don't doubt what you're saying, but isn't the products on the street right now causing
Right. So
error? Isn't it being sold as something it's not?
It's being sold both ways. So what's happening is the cartels and the other organizations that are producing this, while they're killing people, they're also creating a bigger customer base because people are chasing this high. That's why they're also manufacturing it to mimic other drugs, to produce that high, get more people addicted. They're creating their own customer base by addicting
Clearly,
people.
my questions are very naive, so I appreciate you're trying to help me.
No, I don't think they're naive at all. I think that makes sense.
So at the same time, the headlines are screaming all of these deaths and overdoses. There are people, and I would imagine most of these people thought they were buying one thing and they got another. At the same time, you're saying people are actually seeking out, do you know where I can get some of this fentanyl/narco?
Yes, because of the intense high.
And so how are they preventing their own overdoses? Or
They're rolling the dice. We don't know how it's going to affect one person from the other. It may kill.
And you don't know what's in it.
Right, and there's no controls. I mean, Center for Disease Control put out an advisory last year about the dangers of this product, its unpredictability, its dangers. But in essence, these organizations are creating their own customer base by getting more people addicted. Relatively speaking, the number of people they're killing is low compared to the number of people that they're creating as customers.
The quantities that are reflected in the bill, starting at 1 kilogram up, and recognizing, as you said, some milligrams can actually cause the overdose, if not death. So, as you said, again, thousands and thousands, even within 1 kilogram.
1 kilogram produces 4,000 lethal doses. You only need 1/4 of a milligram to potentially kill someone. We have a lot of heroin users who are seeking stronger highs because they become more tolerant to the heroin high, and they're looking for a better high than what they can get off of the heroin. So they're going to need a stronger drug than heroin itself in order to produce those effects. So
Right.
they're looking for something more.
I am well aware of the strength and potency of fentanyl. I have a couple of friends in my life who are anesthesiologists, and in their own practice, in fact, it's one of the highest risks of employment for anesthesiologists, the addiction to fentanyl. And in these cases, they weren't, of course, buying street drugs with unknown quantities. They were using pharmaceutical fentanyl and injecting themselves for a short-term high, so they were actually able to some degree or other, continue their professional responsibilities. So I'm familiar with it from that aspect. I would imagine that in these quantities, the universe of people in this fentanyl chain is probably relatively small. Do we have any idea of how many?
Is this on? It'd be very difficult to put a number on that. How many people are involved in the manufacturing?
I can't imagine it's even hundreds. It's probably scores.
Yeah, the organization of the product, the organization of the organization itself, the high-ranking members, it's not going to be a lot. But they employ other people, you know, so the people involved in this, there's going to be a lot, but the people that we're targeting that are the people responsible for the distribution of mass quantities, those are not going to be high numbers.
So I'll just conclude, Madam Chair, always respectful of the voice that the ACLU brings to this committee. And with regard to my own support of Senator Mitchell's earlier bill, given the significant quantity thresholds that this bill imposes, I will be supporting the bill today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also would like to be added as an author, if I may. This is a very, or thank you. This is a very dangerous drug. We use it in our pharmacies to alleviate pain 3 ways. You can give it by patch, and the largest strength is about 100 microgram per mil. So we're talking about micrograms. You can give it by a lollipop. The largest strength is 1.6 milligram or 1,600 micrograms, but you don't just swallow the lollipop. You suck on it and you put it down after you get your pain relief. So it would be a toxic dose if you took the whole thing. So, and to let you know about a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. I mean, the bottle's this big. And so if you just took 1 kilogram and if all you wanted to do was just make a 50 microgram per mil standard injectable, that would be 20 million doses. And while I appreciate the math of you, that I think you said it was 400,000 doses that are toxic at a quarter of a milligram, it's actually 4 million doses. We're off by a little factor. Even just using a larger number of an estimated dose of 2 milligram, you're looking at 500,000 potential deaths per kilogram. 80 kilograms is gigantic. Now, so what does that mean as far as toxic dose? If you get this powder, it would be the equivalent of taking about 1/25 of a package of Splenda. That's what about 2 milligrams would probably look like. And that would be a lethal dose. And to answer my good friend from San Francisco's question, this is really a game of Russian roulette. You know, this is a new item that is very powerful, 50 times more powerful than heroin, 100 times more powerful than morphine, and they're marketing under the name of Norco. But a lot of these sophisticated distributors, if you will, are cutting it. They'll cut it with lactose, 1 to 100, and try to titrate to such a way that people will get a high and not lose their customers due to overdoses. So it's hit and miss. But there's no question that this is the nuclear bomb of illicit street narcotics that's on the market today, much more dangerous than heroin. And so we really need to nip this in the bud, and I'm delighted to see my friend from San Francisco is supporting this, because we've got to get the message out that this is very, very dangerous and it's going to kill a lot of people. Just 10 in Sacramento County alone recently. So I applaud the author for bringing this forward. It's really important that we make a statement today that this is just totally unacceptable, and we need to have these enhanced sentences. I'll be urging I vote.
Senator Monning.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate the information we're getting today. I'll also be supporting this bill for reasons my colleague Senator Leno mentioned, just the size quantities that you're targeting. My question is, any way of estimating what amount of this fentanyl is manufactured illegally versus what is coming from pharmaceutical manufacturers and finding its way to the street?
We can only base it on what's being brought in and tested through the laboratory. The counterfeit that's coming in, the counterfeit pills that are coming in to our laboratory equate to about 10% of the total number of pills that we're analyzing. And it's a mixture of multiple different counterfeit drugs. It's not just exclusive to fentanyl and its analogs, although that has been the majority of what we've seen over the last 6 months. But we're seeing some other counterfeit drugs as well in those pills, but about 10% in the pills.
So would that, another way of saying that is that as much as 90% is manufactured by pharmaceutical companies finding its way?
Correct. So of the other pills that are coming into us, 90% of them appear to be legitimate pharmaceuticals.
And is there anything the pharmaceutical manufacturers could do that would minimize the ability of it being lethal on the street or packaged in
What we understand is that these are illicit powders that are being manufactured in the same way that cocaine and methamphetamine and other illicit drugs are being made, and then they're being pressed into pills and dyed to appear as if they're legitimate pharmaceuticals. But we also have received just the powder itself, in the same way we would receive methamphetamine or cocaine.
The actual pharmaceutical in appearance. But is there anything the pharmaceutical manufacturer could be doing to minimize the misuse, the legitimately manufactured fentanyl getting?
Again, the pharmaceutical companies have no responsibility in this, in that they're not manufacturing these powders or producing these pills in any way. It's a completely separate market. These are really being illicitly manufactured by the cartels.
Right, maybe.
Senator, about 2 weeks ago, I was watching Azteca America, which is a news show out of Mexico, and they were talking about the phenomenon of the increase in manufacture of fentanyl counterfeits by the cartels. So this is a growing market for them. With respect to lawfully manufactured fentanyl, current law already does cover the issue. There was a bill back in 1985, first bill I worked on, by then Assemblymember Gwen Moore, that provided that a manufacturer who with knowledge or conscious disregard markets a product illicitly could be criminally liable. The pharmaceutical companies have been very responsible. They're, as Senator Leno indicated earlier, pharmaceutical company isn't going to knowingly make something that kills people. For the cartels, as the witness said earlier, that's just collateral damage. It's just the cost of doing business. And the reality is that cartel control of and manufacture of these products, at least according to Azteca America, is growing.
And that does seem to be the major source. But is there anything the pharmaceutical manufacturers, the legal manufacturers, could be doing that they're not, that would minimize their products finding their way to the street?
I think that's a good question. I would kind of liken it to counterfeit money. I don't know the answer to that, to what they can or cannot do. I can tell you, this is just one picture. These appear to be Xanax pills. I don't know if you guys can see them. This is fentanyl. Anybody taking these is going to have a good chance of dying. Fentanyl is one of the most tightly controlled substances out there. So I think, as the other witness was just saying, that what they can do, they're doing already. Is there more that can be done through the legal pharmaceutical companies? I don't know. It's certainly something that we maybe should explore because the cartels are going to continue to evolve, and they're going to continue to try to skirt the laws, which again, to me, is evidence that our laws work. They're running around the laws. So, long answer to a short question, but certainly worth exploring.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Monning. Senator Stone, I would note we do have to adjourn at noon. We have a number more bills.
Just to maybe just quickly respond to Senator Monning. I think it was a very good question, Senator. There is no oral dosage form except for that sucker that you can get fentanyl. And fentanyl is a Schedule II drug. And so any pharmacy that gets it would probably be a compounding pharmacy. It's usually bought in the gram bottles or 10-gram bottles. I'll guarantee you that if my pharmacy ordered a kilogram of fentanyl, I would have the DEA in my office probably the following day. So I would opine that probably 99%, if not more, is illicit. And the only thing that these drug companies can do is to help alleviate these potential overdoses is antidotes. And we know you've heard of naloxone, an inhaler or an injectable. If we can get there early enough and give them the narcotic antagonists, maybe we can save some of these people. But I think the makers of fentanyl, they mostly distribute to just hospitals and some community pharmacies with a Schedule II prescription. It's very carefully monitored, and very little of it is getting to the illicit market. These are rogue cartel manufacturers making it in bathtubs in large quantities with ingredients they can get from China, unfortunately.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question as well. Obviously, this is a very dangerous drug, and we want to include it in the definitions that we've been talking about today, that when we get these synthetic compounds, things that are pretending to be something else, that we want to take action. I appreciate that the sentence enhancement is only on what we have now, so that what Senator Mitchell's bill tries to do is different. I appreciate the the fact that these are jail felonies, and I am concerned about claims that this will have to lead to more expansion of jails, more money to build jails, as opposed to what clearly needs to be done that none of the bills have addressed today, which is how do we outreach to our young people and figure out why this reckless behavior appears to be so popular with them that they want to pursue whatever the newest boutique drug is, in spite of the fact that they may sacrifice their lives to do that. So, you know, because I read the bill as simply including this new drug in our present practices, I can support the bill today as well. But I notice that it is going to appropriations, and I'd like to get a report at the end of a year or so about how many convictions we're actually getting and what the number, what the size of the conviction is for. Is it 1 kilo or 20 kilos? Because I think that would be research that would be very, very important for us to know in trying to apprehend where the drugs are coming from. But also, this is really to law enforcement. You mentioned cartels. We mentioned drugs coming from China and from Mexico and other places. Is it your impression that most of the drugs are coming from other places? And how is California working with the FBI, with the Drug Administration on these cross-border crossings? This should be something, it would seem to me, that the U.S. attorneys would be involved with, and that I know that there are federal penalties for this that probably go beyond what California would do. And I just wonder, again, I don't know what we can do about it, but I would hope that we're working closely with them.
We absolutely are. One of my responsibilities is a task force. On that task force in Orange County, I have full-time FBI and DEA representation. We work hand in hand.
Would you prosecute under federal law then?
When we can, absolutely. We do.
When couldn't you?
It would depend on the circumstances of the case. It would depend on the AUSA that prosecutes the case. Sometimes they would push it towards state versus federal. This is just one more tool in our toolbox to pursue these people.
Well, thank you. That's why I think we could learn something that would help us all in the practice of apprehension, but also the practice of deterrence and prevention.
Absolutely agree. We need more public education and more awareness.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you. Senator Bates, would you like to close?
I just want to say thank you to the committee, certainly to our staff who did an incredible analysis in which I learned a lot more about the sentence enhancement and its impact or a lack of impact. I think we're moving in the right direction, and I know that this is a heavy lift in a committee that is basically mandated from higher up to ensure that we are not adding to our jail population and therefore pushing the federal mandate. So I appreciate that you've all been very involved, very deliberative in your approach to this. I do consider it, and I'm sure I share this with our public. This is a public health crisis, so it does move beyond our current protocols on things like this, and hopefully it's going to cut the head off of the drug cartels. That's the intention, to stop it at its source. So with that, thanks again, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Please read the roll.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson. Aye. Anderson, aye. Glazer. Glazer, aye. Leno.
Aye.
Leno, aye. Liu. Liu, aye. Monning.
Aye.
Monning, aye. Stone. Stone, aye.
Thank you, guys.
7-0. That bill is out. We have Senator Mendoza.
Senator Anderson will be presenting for her. This one's pulled.
Yeah.
Senator Anderson is going to present this one, which
Okay.
should go quick. And then you want to encourage the Senate staffer at the table.
Oh, I thought the cameras were here for me.
Okay.
You have to go quickly.
Okay, we have 4 bills and 20 minutes.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask the testifiers to be brief.